Good evening. My name is Jeff Beck. I'm the Director of Admission here at Trinity-Pawling School, and we're delighted to be with you this evening and bring to you another installment of our Pride Perspectives. We This evening we're going to be speaking about boys and citizenship, becoming, belonging, and community. We're very excited to share with you all on this topic and how we at Trinity-Pawling do it best, and how we really highlight and make sure that this is something that is a foundational piece of what the learning experience and the experience in general that boys here at Trinity-Pawling have. This is my fifth year here at Trinity-Pawling. I will say that my experience here has been nothing but stellar, and being opened with welcome arms from the faculty, the students, the current parents, the alumni. This is an incredible place, but I'm excited to share with you three of our current students and our head of school. So we'll start with them and have them introduce themselves, and then we'll jump right into the webinar. So we'll start with Mr. Nolan Watts. If you would like to say hello to everybody and introduce yourself.
Yeah, everyone, I'm Nolan Watts. I'm a senior. I've been here all 4 years. I'm from Fredericksburg, Virginia, and I like playing hockey here.
Thank you, Nolan. Much appreciated. On to Julio.
Nice to meet everybody. My name is Julio Bueso. I'm from Madrid, Spain, and I'm quite fond of basketball and soccer. And I've been here my junior and senior year.
Great. Last but not least, Mr. Zanny.
Hello, everybody. My name is Dominic Zanni. This is my sixth year here at Trinity-Pawling, so I've been here since seventh grade. I'm a day student. I only live around 20 minutes away. I have an older brother that graduated in 2024 from Trinity-Pawling and a little brother that's in eighth grade right now. And I play soccer and I do track.
Great. Thank you. And Mr. Taylor, go for it.
Hi, everybody. Good evening. Thank you for taking some time to be with us. My name is Bill Taylor. I'm the head of school. This is my 11th year of being head of school here. I did begin my career here right out of graduate school. So I've taught here. I've done admissions work. For 9 years, I was the associate headmaster. And then I left and I was the head of a co-ed day school for 14 years. So happy to be back, delighted to be back. And I think what I know what drew me back was the opportunity to help merge innovation with tradition. Trinity-Pawling is a school of well over 100 years old, lots of dominant traditions that are meaningful to the school, the students, the alumni. But we've also been doing a lot of innovation with the curriculum, especially uh, creating changes that really reflect the school's commitment to educating boys and really leaning into our expertise at teaching boys. So,
Wonderful. Well, I like this topic that we're going to jump into tonight, and partially because it isn't always what folks think when they hear about school, right? And I think that one of the things that boarding school really brings out is this ability to help teach kids outside the classroom and help educate students beyond the classroom and in life. And so, for the tonight's topic of the Pride's perspective, how did you come across that, and why did you feel like we should highlight, kind of that belonging, becoming, and community within the context of citizenship?
well, yes, well, thank you. That's a great question. I think that what is this, my 35th year in independent education, working with teenagers. And, I am a big proponent that citizenship is a critical skill set that young people need to learn, and it's multifaceted. And at the previous school where I was the head, we did a lot of work with citizenship. We do a lot of work with citizenship here because schools historically, and we haven't done a very good job about teaching what citizenship is. I think we all have citizenship awards, and too often these awards, are the nice kid award. Uh, and certainly being nice, being charitable is an important part of citizenship, but it's much deeper. It's a much deeper skill set than just that. And if schools are not deliberate about teaching citizenship, then I really think that we are abrogating a significant responsibility, especially in a democracy. Because citizenship is, understanding and nurturing an awareness of the interrelatedness of people and the interrelatedness of communities, and how we as individuals relate to larger communities, how one community relates to another community. And in a democracy, that's essential. And I would say that especially today, where we tend to be so polarized, it's too often we can get into our own little group and then be citizens with that group, and not realize that to be for a democracy to really work, you've got to learn how to relate and connect and empathize and understand people from across a wide spectrum of backgrounds, and a wide spectrum of experiences. And that just doesn't happen just because you say it's important. That happens because you teach young people how to do that. And Trinity-Pawling being a school that attracts students from all over the world, all over this country, but from many different countries across the globe. This is such a distinctive aspect of what the student experience is here. And, I know we've got Julio who's going to share some of his experiences. Uh, but just being able to interact at this young age with people with different life backgrounds, experiences coming from different places is itself an exercise in developing citizenship. Citizenship involves empathy, it involves communication, it involves self awareness and awareness of others and how we as individuals relate to others. And I think, I know that in a larger community, there are these concentric circles. I mean, it's important to learn how to be a citizen of your own school community. It's important to be a citizen in your own local community, in your national community, in your global community, and I would argue it's important for us to be citizens of our larger environmental community. And all of those aspects are taught in dynamic ways here at Trinity-Pawling. So I'm just thrilled to be able to spend some time tonight talking about how we do that, how we foster a deeper sense of self-awareness, which breeds greater confidence, which will promote leadership and so forth, all from different perspectives, but particularly through a perspective of interrelatedness and citizenship.
Wonderful, wonderful. One thing I wanted to quickly mention though here, if anybody has any specific questions, feel free to throw them in the chat. I'll be monitoring that throughout the event tonight, and we'll try our best to get to those as we go through this. But I wanted to kind of quickly start off, and I know you started to touch on this here, Mr. Taylor, but if you're able to go into a little bit more detail of how that concept of citizenship is really fostered at Trinity-Pawling, right? You talked a little bit about kind of the generalization of citizenship and why it's so important and impactful for us. But what do we do here at Trinity-Pawling that's very unique?
I'll begin by saying what we don't do here, which sometimes people say is unique. And that is that we do not have a community service requirement that many schools do. And there's good arguments for having a community service requirement. Uh, this school years ago used to have a community service requirement. And when I was a young teacher, and I'm a history teacher, so teaching the importance of citizenship through the lens of history has always been something that I've felt we had a responsibility to do. But when we had a graduation requirement here, uh, I saw at the end of a year, seniors running around asking faculty members if they could wash their car, if they could clean out the garden of their home, uh, so they could, check something off a box and meet a graduation requirement. And that always struck me as being counterproductive. That if citizenship is about learning how to engage with the larger community, then doing so to check off a box, or to meet a requirement that is not being fostered from within, uh, is is not really teaching the lesson, in my opinion, in as productive a way as we could do if we generated genuine interest in engaging in service, engaging with community. And so when I had the opportunity to be leading a school, we developed a Citizenship Institute at my previous school. We've done that here. We have multifaceted opportunities to teach citizenship. We have a very active service program. The boys here today have been involved in that in one way or another. Our chaplain, Father Lennox, does a lot of work in this regard. We have other faculty members who are doing service projects, blood drives, other engagements locally. The National Honor Society that Father Lennox advises, that's a significant component of membership for that organization. You have to be committed to service. And so we foster those opportunities on a regular basis here. We partner with the Pawling Resource Center, which was right here locally. They're a food pantry, but they also do work with local residents who need help with their home, with their yard, and so forth. And in that relationship, the boys who volunteer there get to know these individuals. They get to know what their experience is living in Pawling, how long they've lived here, why they enjoy this community, and so forth. We are very deliberate about teaching the concept of citizenship in our curriculum. The history department obviously takes a lead in that, but the environmental science curriculum also approaches this from a perspective of citizenship. And then we have institutes that that permeate the curriculum both on Saturdays and then feed back into the main curriculum. We have a leadership institute, an environmental stewardship institute, a entrepreneurship institute, and a citizenship institute. And underclassmen work their way through all four of those institutes on Saturdays. So one Saturday, the Citizenship Institute may be doing programming for that Saturday, and they could be doing a number of things. They could be engaging in direct service in the community, but another activity they've done is to learn what needs are in different communities, both in the nation and the world, and they do sort of experiential role playing activities. And if I lived in this country, this is what the needs would be, whether they be food needs, energy needs, and things like that, and what that community is doing to solve those challenges. So we have a multifaceted approach to teaching this. And then within these institutes, by the time a student is in his junior year, a boy is essentially declaring a major in one of those four institutes. And as a senior, that boy is helping to lead the activities for the underclassmen in that area. So we have probably around 15, 16, 17 seniors who are involved in the Citizenship Institute, and they're the leaders. They're teaching what civic responsibility is to the younger students. So it's a wide-ranging dynamic of how we teach this here at Trinity-Pawling. So I'd like to pivot and ask the boys. And I want to come back to this idea of Trinity-Pawling as a boys' school. And I want to ask you to talk a little bit about your experience at Trinity-Pawling uh, from the perspective of this being a boys' school. What have you enjoyed about it? What has been different? Because I'm going to pivot back to that later. So, guys, why don't you just jump in and share with us some of your thoughts about being at an all-boys school?
Yeah, I'll start first. I've obviously been here for 6 years, so it's something I've known for a while. And as time has gone on here, I've embraced it more and more. It's something where you truly have to embrace it and you can get a lot out of it. It may be weird coming from a school that's co-ed, but coming here, when you're surrounded by all boys that you can consider your friends, your brothers, you have that freedom of doing things that you might not do in other situations. And I feel that allows you to pursue things that you otherwise wouldn't in other circumstances.
Yeah, I mean, similar to Dom, um, I definitely embraced the change. I came from a public school in Virginia, and I mean, obviously, the elephant in the room is that you look around, there's no girls. But I think it makes a lot of things better. There's less distractions. There's no drama. And I always say this on the tours is that the atmospheres at different events are, I think, always better. Like the hockey games, always electric, always like all the guys are in the stands. And then even down to the arts productions of like the plays and stuff, all the boys are in the stands and we all cheer each other on.
Well, for me personally, my experience is kind of different to my brothers over here because, of course, I'm from Spain, so our schooling system in general is a bit different. But just the topic of all boys, when I came here last year, I was a bit, uh, I'll say weirded out by the idea, as I had never experienced it before. But I would say that once I started embracing the idea of all boys, it's what they've said. It's an opportunity to, I'd say that it's allowed me to express and know myself more because there's not that much of you're not in a position where people are going to judge you the same way. There's this sense of brotherhood and community that is not present in regular schools. So you can embrace yourself and each other more.
I think those are great answers. And I throw that question out there very deliberately because I said at the outset that we're always very conscientious of creating learning experiences that will resonate with boys. And everything we do here would resonate with girls. But, boys learn differently. Boys learn best when they're being active, when they can see the relevance of what they're learning, when they're working in teams, sometimes when you throw some competition into it, when there's some creativity, when they're learning in experiential ways. We used to have classes on Saturday mornings, like most boarding schools. Half day of classes on Wednesday, half day of classes on Saturday. We play our sports Wednesday and Saturday afternoons. We still have Wednesday half day and Saturday's a half day. But we took the teaching time from Saturday and we rolled it back into Monday and through Friday, so we didn't lose any classroom teaching. But we decided that we could use Saturdays more productively. Quite honestly, uh, Saturday teaching classes, and I remember teaching classes on Saturday mornings as a teacher, always pretty challenging. The kids didn't want to be in class on Saturday. And so often, if you walk through the classroom building on a Saturday, you'd see a lot of movies being watched. And it was anything but active. Sometimes there were tests given on Saturdays. Uh, I question whether kids did their best on the tests on Saturdays. Uh, so when we started thinking, how can we look at time differently as a school? How can we be more innovative with time? That's where we saw an opportunity to use time differently and to get boys more active in their learning. And the institutes came about as a result of that, to put boys in situation often where they can be outside. Now in the wintertime, that's going to be somewhat limited. But we still get the guys out during the institutes on Saturday into small group activities. They're learning about leadership or citizenship or the environment or entrepreneurship in group activities where they're active and they're hopefully there's some fun involved in it. There may be some competition involved in it, but they are learning these skills that are associated with these four different themes. Um, and so that came about because we are a boys' school. And you heard Julio say this, and I'm so glad you did, Julio, where you said, you discovered that you know yourself better. Uh, I think there's great wisdom in that statement. And and Nolan and Dom also talked about trying new things. When you try new things, you do different things. You get out of your comfort zone. Maybe you're a little vulnerable. Certainly, coming to a boarding school, everybody is in that vulnerable stage, especially if they're coming from a different state, different country, different town. You don't know anybody. You're sort of learning this out. You learn that you develop these relationships with your brothers. That creates confidence. But all of that mixed together also, and this speaks to what Julio you just said, a deeper sense of self-awareness. You know yourself better. There's a deeper sense of self-awareness, and that self-awareness can spill over. This is what I like. These are, I like doing this, or I think I'm good at this. I want to do more of that. And that ultimately helps build even greater confidence. So, guys, I'm going to pivot back to the institutes and just hear from the three of you. What have you enjoyed about it? You're not, only two of you are in the Citizenship Institute. Julio, you're there, and Nolan, you're there. But Dom, you're in the Leadership Institute. Um, what have you enjoyed about this particular program?
I can go first. Yeah, so I've enjoyed the fact that we're able to learn the same skills that a lot of people do in the classroom, but we're able to learn it actively and do it in a community sense. So like the other the other month, me and Julio actually were on this together. We did a thing in Poughkeepsie where we got food and we prepared food in the morning for a homeless environment, and we went there and served our food, and we were able to see the difference it made for the people and the type of joy that it brought them. And so instead of just like seeing it in the classroom and being like, oh, these people would benefit, you actually are able to experience and see them actively benefiting by the things you're doing. And I think that across all the institutes, that's kind of what the goal is, and it works.
Yeah, I'll go. I'm in the Leadership Institute, as Mr. Taylor said, so my experience is pretty much the same, just on a different subject. And I love it. I get to do something on a Saturday that I truly find enjoying. I love leadership. I think it's something you carry with you for the rest of your life. And it's something specifically I'm looking to do in the future beyond college. So doing things with the Leadership Institute, for example, showing up on a Saturday morning, playing some capture the flag, you get to lead my squad. That makes me excited when I get kids showing up ready to do something that's cool. But in that, they're also learning what it means to be a leader. They're getting values out of it, and it's teaching them things they can carry with them, like I said, way beyond that specific day.
For me, I will add a bit on what Nolan said, but I feel like the main thing that the Citizenship Institute does, especially for us seniors, is I feel like a lot of people, when they think about citizenship or community service, they forget or they're not able to see the true impact of what they're actually doing. But with the Citizenship Institute, we're the ones programming, organizing it, taking the younger guys out and doing all this to help real people in a real life context. And I feel that just lets us see the true nature of what we're doing, and we are able to like truly recognize the impact that we have on these people.
Great thoughts, guys. Thank you. The institutes are sort of the back half of something else that we started about 10 years ago, and that's what we call the practicum. The practicum are a series of project-based learning exercises that we actually now do in the 2.5 weeks between Thanksgiving and winter break. A time academically that's kind of challenging. It's a short period between, that's sandwiched in between two breaks. The guys they come back from Thanksgiving, they're looking forward to the next break. It's hard to keep your focus. So we generally don't have classes. The AP classes will meet a little bit during this time, but we get the boys out doing project-based learning. And when I say it's the institutes are the back half of this or the other half, when you are a senior, you get a chance to just, choose your institute to major in. a senior graduation requirement for all seniors is something that we call a senior independent study. So if you are in the environmental institute, for example, your senior independent study has to reflect something about environmental stewardship. So your senior independent study in the Citizenship Institute reflects some engagement uh, with citizenship or civic action and so forth, and leadership would be in that realm. So I've put that out there because I want the three of you to talk a little bit about your senior independent projects and what you did and what you got out of it.
Okay, I'll go first. This is kind of a crazy one to start with, but I decided to do a fundraiser for St. Jude's. And in that, I'm going to be running a marathon on our school's track, which sounds awful, but it's for such a great cause that it's made me enjoy planning it, doing all of it. I'm designing shirts. I run an Instagram account. You should follow it, Meaningful Miles 2026. Um, and so, yeah, it's been a great experience. It's going to be a great event. It's happening April 13th, and it's amazing.
And why did you pick St. Jude's, Dom?
Well, to be more specific, there was a student here 4 or 5 years ago, Matt Dooley. Some of you may know. He was battling a brain tumor, and he unfortunately passed away. And he inspired me to tackle a task like that. I gave a chapel talk about him earlier this year, and I talked about doing things that may suck, doing things that you might not want to do, but it's in those things that you grow, and you have to realize you should be grateful for things that you might take for granted.
And Dom knows that last week I saw him sitting out there in the main lobby there by the fire, and I ran an idea past him because the school where I was before was in Memphis, Tennessee, and that's where St. Jude's is located. And I asked him what he thought if we could get some kids at that school to join in his effort and run a marathon or run segments of a marathon to also raise money and to bring these two school communities together, and he thought that was a great idea, and I passed it by the head of school there, and they're very excited about it. So here are two different school communities in two different states, now all, working together because St. Jude does such important work. And that's a great, expansion of your idea, Dom. So thank you for allowing us to do it.
I can go next. So what I did is, it was very actually involved in citizenship, and that I kind of made that my goal. So what I did is I did a couple things that I could do to support veterans. 'Cause I have a lot of family, that is very involved in the military. I have cousins now that are, actively becoming Marines, soldiers in the army, and so. I feel that it was my duty to support veterans. And so what I did is I started by creating my own charity, and it's called Pups Aiding Wounded Soldiers. And what it does is it gets soldiers in need service dogs. And I took that idea and I made a plan for that. And I went through all the legal steps to get to my product. And then from my product, I then branched to the Citizenship Institute. And actually, this upcoming program, one of the things we're doing is we are going to a place called Putnam Service Dogs, and they do identical work to the charity I created. And so I'm having the underclassmen in the institute go and see how important that is and how they train the dogs and other things, etc. And then how I learned. I took my charity and then I had another idea to do a charity game. So what I did is I did a charity hockey game as well, and I was able to raise a little over $3,500 for the Disabled American Veterans Foundation, and I went through that to help me learn to promote and advocate for myself, which I can also use for the charity I created.
That's fabulous, Dylan. And get, the fact that you're getting the younger guys here who are working their way through the Citizenship Institute to learn more about this and to learn more about, service dogs for disabled veterans. That, they may not have known anything about that. And you're helping to expand their knowledge, which is, you know, an active civic engagement just to them. So, um, wonderful. And that game was just electric on Friday night. And we won, by the way, with Nolan in net.
I appreciate it.
Okay, so my journey with the SIP has been a little bit chaotic, but the initial idea was that I decided, obviously in the sense of citizenship, I wanted to paint a graffiti, which is a personal liking of mine, in a neighboring town with a really big Hispanic population. As this year, uh, not to get political, but it has been a weird year for people like us. So I just decided that I wanted to create a symbol with something that unites us, such as art, to show the beauty of our heritage and to show there's nothing to be afraid of or yeah, you have to love your heritage because it really is a beautiful thing. Sadly, with the time span that we had, I wasn't able to get the license to do it there from the town hall in time. I will be pursuing this by my own hand later on after I graduate. But for the SIP this year, I decided to go with another great community, which is Trinity-Pawling. So I decided to paint my own mural reflecting my love for the school.
Which is awesome, by the way. You showed me all the different things and it taught me how to read the graffiti, which is great. And I can't wait to see it displayed here. And I want to follow your idea with what you want to do with a mural, because I think that encapsulates really, what we're trying to emphasize with this idea of citizenship to connect with communities and to help educate people and help people learn from each other. So outstanding. So you've talked a little bit about what you've done. I'm going to ask you now, what did you learn about yourself in this process so far? I mean, I know, Dom, you're still working on it. Nolan, you're still working on it. Julio, you know what you want to do, with this community. What have you taken for your, so what have you learned about yourself through this process so far?
I'll go first. I've learned a lot about the planning aspect of it because obviously mine isn't happening till later on in this year. But it's the fact of using the resources I've had, which is another great thing at Trinity-Pawling. It's being aware of what I have and being able to use that to promote the event I'm creating has taught me an abundance of experience and lessons about doing things with what you have and creating the most of the opportunity that's presented to you.
My
Great.
project, I learned a lot about how to promote and how to engage the community in a event that means a lot to you. So like obviously the game it meant a lot to me. I wanted it to be something special, so I collaborated with a lot of people. I put it into um the Pride post. I put it on the school's Instagram. I put it on our head prefect Arthur. He runs his own little media account. Me and him did a lot of work together to really promote this event and promote my cause, and that caused a lot of donations to come in. It caused a lot of people to become engaged with it, um, and I'd say it was successful because of all that.
Okay, for me, I guess for myself, I learned, I've developed the love I have for this specific hobby of mine, which is graffiti. And also, not only of myself, but just attesting back to the community, I've really seen how something like art can unite people within a community. Because, when I made it about Trinity-Pawling, every time people came in the classroom I was working in, you could see them, they felt like it belonged to them as well. You could just see them unify throughout a thing that it represented all of us in an artistic way that maybe they're not familiar with as much as I am, but just the concept, it just unified us all in this community.
Right. One of the aspects of these senior projects is there's a big exhibition at the end of the this winter session is what we call this time period where we do this, and the boys have to describe what they're doing. And one of the key learning takeaways that we want from all of this learning experience, all the learning experiences here, the projects, the institutes, but is to allow the boys to be comfortable with vulnerability. Um, and I think the vulnerability in this, in our culture sometimes has a negative connotation. It can speak of being weakness, which technically is what it means if in a military context, you're looking for weaknesses and so forth. But vulnerability is really, in the school's perspective, a tremendous strength because it forces you to take some healthy risks, to do things differently. Uh, so, whether it be your SIP, the institutes, just your experience here, you've had many different opportunities to sort of grapple with vulnerability. Just coming here where you didn't know anybody when you started here was highly vulnerable. So, guys, talk a little bit about the role that vulnerability has played, and maybe how vulnerability has allowed you to have a deeper awareness of who you are.
Yeah, I think that the more vulnerable you are at TP, I think you get more out of TP with that. And I'd say that because through my experiences, like freshman year, I came in, I didn't know anybody. I'm from Virginia. Not a lot of people here are from Virginia. And so I had to meet a lot of new friends. But through that, I was able to put myself out there and try new things that I wasn't able to do like before. And so one thing, I'm just off the top of my head, freshman year, I wanted to play split season hockey in the fall. And so I was told to do farming. And I at first thought it was a joke, but I turned and I actually enjoyed it. I learned a lot of skills that I would have not been able to do otherwise. And then I've also created a great relationship with the Frost family. Um, and I mean, that was my first sort of thing, but I've carried that throughout my 4 years. And I think that with being vulnerable, it allows you to expand yourself and maybe find something that you didn't know you were good at before, but now you may carry that after TP.
Great, thank you, Nolan.
I believe this goes back to the all boys aspect of things with the being vulnerable because when you're surrounded by people, like I said before, I don't want to say the same thing as I said before, but when you're surrounded by people that you feel you trust and you're comfortable with, you I believe automatically become more vulnerable. Like for example, when I first came here, I had no experience with instruments, so I decided to take an instrumental class. And Mr. Kelsey, I believe he's great with this. He brings out everybody. He had me doing a solo, and I was just hitting random keys because I had no rhythm, and I was like, "Oh God, this is terrible." But when I looked around, it's just bunch of your brothers. They're laughing, having fun. It's no judgment. It's just a great environment. And it's things like that that bring out the vulnerability in you when you realize nobody really cares. You just got to be you.
Thank you, Dom.
For me, I guess my example is a bit more extreme because I came from a different country, different culture, different language. So my first year at TP, honestly, at the beginning of the year, outside of school, nothing related to school, but I also had a bit of a negative experience because of my cultural differences. So I was already entering the school with a bit of a fear of what I would find because I guess I was in myself. I didn't want to let myself express myself because I was scared of how it would be accepted. But at TP, I felt like being vulnerable when I started being vulnerable and opening myself up to others. I saw that the brotherhood present at TP, it just embraced me. I feel like at TP, attesting to what Nola and Dominic said, it's just the community that welcomes you with open arms. There's no judgment. You have the ability to find yourself in ways you didn't know that you could, whether it be music, like Dom said, or farming, like Nolan said. It can really be anything. Like there's just an ability to find yourself, find new aspects of yourself, and develop yourself. Because it's just that lack of judgment that also goes back to being an all boys school.
So, I mean, this is probably a bit redundant, but for people who are just sort of tuning in, maybe they've just heard about Trinity-Pawling, they haven't done a whole lot of, they haven't been here maybe for an interview. Uh, how would you describe brotherhood? You know, what, to somebody when you go home and you talk to one of your buddies at home, who don't, they don't go to TP, and you say brotherhood, they say, what does that mean? How would you answer that?
Well, for me, simply put, I would define brotherhood purely as unity. So in this school specifically, I feel like sure, maybe I'm not friends with anybody, with everybody. That's maybe not the case, but even so, I know that whatever I'm doing, if I'm trying something new, even though I may not be best friends with that person in front of me, there's not going to be a sense of judgment. We're not going to judge each other. We're still going to accept each other because I guess brotherhood for me is that bond that we share because we attend TP.
Great. Anybody
Yeah,
want to add to that?
yeah, I'll add. Adding on to that, it branches from not only in school but also to out of school. Like, I was last year they do spring trips to like golf courses and stuff, and I'm big into golf, so I was at a golf course in the spring last year, and this guy came up to me. I was wearing a TP quarter zip, and he told me that he went to TP, and he gave me his whole background, and it was really cool. And it turns out that he actively does. He's a lawyer, and I am aspiring to be a lawyer, and so now I can use that connection and use it into my life, and it's TP that brings that.
Yeah, to go off of that, kind of what Nolan said, there's a certain energy, and like Nolan's experience with the alumni, you really have to immerse in TP and what it is. And I fail to even explain the energy and atmosphere of what it's like being in a brotherhood that you feel so connected and loved in a way. It's amazing.
Well, and that sort of speaks to, part of the title of this webinar is boys in citizenship, becoming, belonging, and community. And I think that what you guys have shared really touches on all of that. I mean, the brotherhood is about belonging and that sense of unity and the confidence that comes from that, and that self-awareness that can grow when you belong in a community that allows you to then in the example of citizenship to extend that sense of community out, and to engage with a larger community, which of course is what leadership is taking that skill set and moving it outward and connecting with other people. And so, at Trinity-Pawling, all of this is interrelated, and it's not segmented. It's happening at the same time. It's a very powerful dynamic that makes the learning environment here not just active, experiential, but designed to broaden that sense of self-awareness. This is really what's going on. I can be comfortable with being vulnerable. I can do new things. I have that confidence that my brothers are going to have my back, that there's going to be unity and so forth. And it is a powerful dynamic. And I think that when we're talking about something as important as citizenship, that powerful dynamic is really directing that, uh, and is forcing, uh, not forcing, that's the wrong verb, but fostering that sense of connection with others here in this community, but connection with people outside the community, and then awareness that you can be connected in multifaceted ways with the world around you, and that just builds more confidence and so forth. Um, so, I had some other questions about, engaging with the larger world, but I think the three of you have really, talked so well about it. So that would just be redundant if I asked you some of these other questions. But Mr. Beck, I don't know if there have been questions that have come up through the course of the webinar or anything we didn't get to from the questions that were submitted earlier.
Yeah, there's actually one that was recently submitted, and it also was one that was submitted earlier in the other questioning line of questioning. And I believe a couple of you guys are peer mentors from the peer mentor program that we have. And so the question is, how do we as a community make or help new boys that are joining the community feel connected in their first few weeks? And especially boys that might be a little bit anxious about fitting in. So, if any of you guys are the peer mentors and you guys talk about it, I'm happy to kind of cover any of the gaps there as to what else we include in that process of newly enrolled students. But whoever wants to jump in, go for it.
I can talk about this if you want. Well, I'm a peer mentor. I'll say the fortune. Both of my students are international, so I could help them personally from my own point of view because obviously I'm international as well. So I feel like at the beginning of the year, once they entered, they were both a bit anxious about being in a new country, and especially an all boys school, which they've never been in one before. So just the beginning of the year, I remember in the family style dining, they were sitting with me. And something that I would say they've both told me that's helped them a lot. It's just I try to introduce them to as many people as I could. Uh, I wouldn't say this, but maybe I didn't care as much what their opinion if they wanted me to introduce them to everybody. Maybe they're a bit anxious doing that. But I feel like the fact that I introduced them to so many people, it allowed them to be vulnerable, as we talked before. They were maybe in a situation they didn't want to be because maybe they were a bit afraid of this guy or the other one. But because they talked with them, they got to know them. And eventually, with this brotherhood that's present in TP, they became friends because that's what TP does. It gets two strangers from two different backgrounds and it creates a bond through being at TP. So I feel like that's the most important thing that we do as peer mentors, just putting them as a part of the community.
Yeah. In fact, I believe the peer mentor program was spawned out of a senior independent project a few years ago, which further supports the notion of how citizenship and leadership specifically impact our school. But all new students would be assigned a peer mentor over the summer. The returning students, the peer mentors would reach out to those students, connect if they're geographically oriented, potentially even meet up, grab a coffee, shoot some hoops, hang out. And then when they get on campus, there's a intentionality in those first couple days through that orientation, as there is intentionality throughout all of our curriculum and all of what we do at Trinity-Pawling for boys, of making sure that they're connecting with folks that they know and that that sense of belonging is starting before they arrive on campus. So there's that orientation and then the follow up as Julio mentioned, getting to sit with their peer mentor, somebody that they may have already had a connection with in those first couple weeks before they're able to really dig in. But getting to know folks happens pretty quickly, and I think you all can attest to that. If you're here for about 1 week and all of a sudden you feel like you know everybody and can navigate your way around pretty easily. But that was one of the main questions that we had. Most of the other ones, I'll be honest with you, were answered throughout. The one question I would come up with, and this was a great question, is what questions would you encourage incoming students to ask themselves every day, or ask themselves, to either prepare or ask themselves in this process to kind of mentally be ready to take on the challenge of being at a Trinity-Pawling?
Yeah, I think with this one, I would say what you would ask yourself after every day would be, what did I do today to involve myself? Because if you just involve yourself and put yourself out there, you're going to find people that you enjoy being around. You're going to find your little circle of friends. And I mean, TP's a brotherhood. So, like, everybody on campus is sort of your friend. I mean, you don't have to be like best friends with them, but you at least know everybody. Um, but it's through those experiences that you would find more friends.
Yeah, I would say definitely did I do the little things right? For example, did I not walk across the quad? Did I stay seated when seniors was called if I wasn't a senior? Did I not cut a line for the chicken and rice line? Did I show up to chapel? It's little things like that that are so small, but it creates such a large effect on who you are and your character. So doing those little things right, asking yourself, did I complete all those tasks? Did I do all that to the best of my ability?
For me, I would say the best question one can ask when coming to TP is how vulnerable do I really want to be? In the sense that uh just what do you want to get out of TP? Do you want to make new friends? Are you going to be vulnerable enough to know all these people around you? They're willing to know you. Do you want to grow as a person? Are you going to open yourself to teachers, to students, to the faculty in general, to grow yourself, find new aspects of yourself? And are you going to be vulnerable enough, even in your sport? Are you going to be able to listen to your coach, get all those little details that Don talked about? Are you going to improve yourself by being vulnerable and open?
I don't know if I could have said it any better myself. That was fantastic, boys. I appreciate that. And then, a similar question that just came in was, how do we help boys transition into the structure of boarding school without feeling overwhelmed? And a lot of what you all have talked about is kind of how that would be answered, right? I think there's a flow to the day. Boarding schools are designed to simplify in many ways, right? You're not having to drive to and from practices or, to and from other engagements. You're able to kind of keep everything in one place. Dom obviously being a day student, slightly different, but ultimately you have your whole world right here, right? And it allows for simplicity. It allows for streamline experience. You know where your teachers are. You can always connect with those folks. So that's another way outside of all of what the boys have talked about this evening, and how we help those students, acclimate to life at a boarding school and specifically here at Trinity-Pawling.
And
Uh,
I would add a slightly different take on that because I think that part of the great opportunities that we can teach the boys here at Trinity-Pawling is how to combine autonomy with structure. How do you work within a structured opportunity for autonomy? Because at boarding school, ironically, there's actually a lot of opportunities for autonomy. Granted, you're not deciding you're going to go off, hop in the car, and go to the movies with a buddy tonight. That's not that kind of autonomy. But you're learning how to take care of yourself. You get to, choose in many cases your classes. You get to choose what you're going to do in your free time. You get to hang out with your buddies here, or even if you're a day student. There's a lot of autonomy that you're exercising here. And when you leave here, college you know, is pretty easy to navigate because you've done most of those things that most incoming freshmen at college are just beginning to learn about for the first time. And you have that confidence because you've done it. You've really exercised autonomy within, a pretty predictably structured environment that is designed to keep you safe. But there's a lot of autonomy within that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I appreciate everybody who's joined us this evening. I want to specifically thank our panelists here, Nolan, Dominic, and Julio, and obviously our head of school, Mr. Taylor, for their insights. It's instrumental in what we do here and how we as a school operate and create a community that we care about each other, right? And, I love watching our sports, but also arts and theater and, because the boys truly play for the front of their jersey, not the back, right? And I think that stems from how they treat each other and how they care for each other and how our culture is on this campus. So a huge thank you to you guys for joining us this evening. I want to give a heads up for any of those students that are applying. We have a fireside chat, which will be on Thursday, February 26th at 7 p.m. A little different than a webinar. It's a little bit more interactive. That will be with myself and Mr. Taylor. So you can fire away questions and ask as much as you'd like. We'll be able to hopefully answer all those. But again, a huge thank you to everybody that's joined this evening. And this will be available for review on our website shortly. So a big thank you and hope you all enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you, everybody. Good night.